Hi, everyone. Welcome back to People You Want to Know podcast. The guest I have for you today is my friend and entrepreneur, Danielle Eisenberg. I met Danielle at a Jewish event in New York City, and when I learned about some of her recent work, I wanted to share it with all of you. Danielle is an Israeli-American who has recently been splitting time between New York and Tel Aviv. She is an entrepreneur running two companies, her travel tech startup, BachPlace, and an Israeli e-commerce business, Oosh. BachPlace is a booking platform for bachelorette party planners, and Danielle will tell you more about that. And if you've got a bachelorette party coming up, you might find some of her resources very useful. Oosh, her other business, stands for Out of Shattered Hearts. It was created after the events of October 7th, really as a way to give back to Israelis and also help small Israeli businesses that are struggling to reach American customers. Danielle's story reminds me that we always have the power to make a difference and affect change. Danielle is a person that sees a problem and takes on the ownership to solve it. For this reason and many others, she is a people Jew want to know. In this episode, you'll learn more about how she started her businesses, how her life has been now that she's living in Israel, and more of the amazing work she's done to support the Jewish and Israeli communities. You'll hear the deep, serious topics we discuss, and then you'll also hear our lighthearted banter. We discuss naming companies, and I even read Danielle a list of alternate podcast names I had considered before I landed on People You Want to Know. Let me assure you, when you hear the other options, you'll be happy to find that I selected none of them. In retrospect, they were literally horrible. Anyway, enjoy this episode, and if you're looking for some items from Israel, really check out Oosh. Hey, Danielle, thanks so much for coming on People You Want to Know podcast.
Hi, Margarita. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here too. Okay, so here's my first question for you. Tell us about yourself and your businesses. What do you do and how did you get there?
I am an entrepreneur. I currently have two businesses that I am running. The first one is BachPlace, and the second one is fairly new and called Oosh. And both stemmed from personal problems that I face in my day-to-day life. BachPlace is a marketplace and planning tool for bachelorette parties. And Oosh is really something from my heart more than anything else. And it's a way for myself and my partner to give back to Israel, to the Jewish people. So Oosh is a company that curates gift boxes for people to buy outside of Israel. And we work with local artists, artisans, craftsmen to really pick individual pieces and put them together in themed boxes. So we have different cities that are themes. Jerusalem is our Shabbat box. Tel Aviv is our culture box. And this really stemmed from being here in Tel Aviv right now and seeing the impact of the war, of October 7th, everything that has had on the people and the economy in Israel right now. And the friend that I started this company with, we really decided to do this just to help as many people as we can. And this was our way of giving back to the Israeli society.
That's really amazing. And I think it's a huge benefit for the community, not only in that you're supporting Israeli businesses who are otherwise struggling, but you're also supporting Israeli businesses who otherwise maybe wouldn't have reached an American market so easily. So it's like two birds, one stone, and it's really great work in this challenging time for Israeli people and Jews.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, so I don't know if people know this, but shipping costs from Israel to the United States is crazy. And it's such a good point, because what we have found is a lot of the artists we're working with, everyone in Israel has like a side business. Like, I know, everyone's here is hustling some way. They have their day job and they have this is what I do for fun. And these individuals, they sell locally a lot of times, or there's a lot of tourists. And what we're doing is we're really opening up a whole new market for these small businesses to reach different customers. Shipping, are you going to pay $30 on a necklace that costs $30? Probably not. And with Oosh boxes, you're able to get an assortment of different goods, and you're really making a direct impact. And it's really exciting.
What are some of your favorite products that are in the boxes?
There's this one evil eye necklace that's just fun. It's like colorful. It's like more like summer beachwear, like not dated. I mean, you could wear it day to day. That one is probably my favorite. And then I love keychains. So I actually have it right here. This is I guess you might not hear because we're on a podcast, but basically this is like a resin-based Evil Eye keychain that I absolutely love. And going through this whole process, I just feel so connected to all our vendors. When we first approached people about this idea, everyone was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, kol hakavod. Like, this is exactly what we need. Business is dead. I really felt that I was helping in my own way, even just by being here and speaking to them and hearing their stories of how they've been impacted. It gave them a platform to speak. And that's what we're so grateful for.
And this totally solves, I think, a problem that maybe existed in the market before, because I remember whenever I'd go to Israel, I'd stock up on those like silver Hamsa necklaces with the opal Hamsa because I couldn't get them in the US, or like the Israeli snacks that I couldn't get anywhere. Or if I could, they would be old and very expensive in some kosher aisle. So this is definitely really special and exciting for people worldwide. Now, you also did a mission trip with itrek to Israel. Your trip was one of the first to go when the war started. I think you had mentioned to me it was back in December. What is itrek and what was this mission like?
So itrek is the most amazing organization out there. I led an itrek back when I was in business school. And itrek's mission is to bring the next generation of leaders to Israel. And that next generation comes from policy schools, law schools, business schools. They're at all the top graduate programs in the country. itrek is a peer-led trip that brings students to Israel so that graduate students can come and really understand what it's like to be here, to learn the history, the culture, the people. And actually, I didn't mention before, but these trips tend to be non-Jewish students. And it's so important because, A, I believe in this mission in its entirety. There's nothing better than a friend-led trip, right? Like you go to see a country from your friend's perspective, and itrek really enables that to happen. So I've been actively involved in their organization. And in November, I was at a conference that they held for current students. I was there and I'm still close to people who work there. One friend in particular, Netanella, and I, we were talking and we were like, we want to go back. We were ready to go back at that time. I was like, let's do what we do best. Like, let's plan a trip. And the two of us, we had to sit with it for a little bit. Back in November, there was such uncertainty. What was happening? How long would it happen? Would it be safe to go? Would people even want to go? And we quickly really put together a trip in 6 weeks. Our trip was end of December, and we were one of the first trips to go. It was incredible for so many different reasons. Our trip happened to be primarily Jewish at that point. It was more of a community-led trip. We went to Far Aza. We met with Yossi Landau from Zaka. We heard a Nova survivor story. The Nova survivor's name is Noah Beer. And she actually was my trip logistics coordinator on my itrek. Just hearing her story was so powerful, and it's something that I'll never forget. The Nova survivors, I think, have impacted me the most. Yeah, I've been to Re'im on a separate trip after the mission trip, and that was, it's all hard, but Re'im was very hard for me. So, we've all been to festivals. Like, I've been to Coachella, I've been to Gavbal, I've been to a few others. And as you hear these stories, you're in a way, like you're picturing what it was like because of the experiences that you may have had. And once I have been to Re'im and saw the grounds, there was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to hide. And it was bone chilling, really.
Wow. That is a life-changing experience. And I want to ask you, is there anything that really resonated with you based on what a survivor said or based on something you experienced that will stick with you forever?
So this mission trip ended in the beginning of January. And my plan was to go home at the end of January. I don't know anyone who's ever left Israel on time. So it's March 4th and I am still here in Israel. I have extended my trip now like a couple times. I don't have the desire to leave. If I do head home, it's because my visa is expiring. But being here has been so uplifting in so many different ways. I think the first, we talk about resiliency as a Jewish people. The Israelis are the most resilient people I have ever met. And that's one thing that I will bring back with me and that will really stick with me. This has been the worst tragedy to happen. And people here still are able to continue in their day-to-day, as hard as it may be. You know, I'm in Tel Aviv. When I first got here, it was pretty quiet. Like, people weren't really eating out, and you really felt the impact of the war. And now you start to see people are going out. And I have one friend in particular. She has a lot of friends who are living in Kfar Aza, and she's from the south. And she's like, it's so hard for me to continue like my day to day when I know my friends are stuck in the past. But we have to. We have to move forward, because otherwise they win. Otherwise they control us, and we can't allow that to happen. So the resiliency is something that I'm really trying to learn from, because I think for me in particular, I tend to cling on to things from the past. It's very hard for me to like move forward and let things go. And especially in the last 2 months, I've gone through a lot of difficulties. And that's the one thing I'm reminding myself, is that I gotta let go, and we just have to be strong and move forward.
Yeah. And I think by the time we publish this, you will be the second guest currently in Israel when this episode gets released. What is your feeling being on the ground? It sounds like you didn't necessarily expect that you were going to stay after your mission, but then you felt compelled to. So what has that experience been like?
I was here over the summer for 4 months, and then I came back to the States October 2nd. So now that I'm back again, I don't want to leave, but I have to leave. I am coming home, but I wouldn't be surprised if I move here like permanently this summer. It's something I'm really thinking about, but it's a very hard decision. And I think that just shows, I feel so at home here. I feel so connected to the people, to the life. And I look at social media every so often now, and I see New York, and a part of me misses it. You know, I miss my friends, I miss my family. But when I walk outside here and just, I can take a breath, and I can really feel comfortable. And I think that's the pull. That's why I keep coming. That's why I kept staying. Maybe I don't want to face the reality of what New York is. Like, I don't know, Margarita, you tell me, like, I haven't been there in 3 months, and it's, from what I see online, it's not the best place right now.
I mean, it's chaotic. There's a lot of challenging aspects of living here in a progressive city that predominantly probably doesn't support Israel very much. And it feels like a toxic environment at times, but the Jewish community is very strong, but it's no Israel, and it's never going to be Israel. So I think when you talk about the pull and walking outside and feeling connected to the land, feeling like you're at home, it's because it's in your genes, right? You're genetically tied to this land, and it's not going to be that way in New York. New York is always going to be different, even for someone like you who has lived in New York City for so long.
It's true. My family at this point is like, Danielle, it would be cheaper if you just made Aliyah. Like, let's just do it. They're all on a mission to get me to move here. And I'm like, okay, like maybe this year, maybe this will be the year.
At the end of the day, it's very fitting that you ended up in Israel after all for an extended time, because you are a startup founder, which is very common and popular for Israel. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about your other business, which is BachPlace. What is BachPlace? How did you start it? What's the story there?
BachPlace is a planning tool and marketplace for bachelorette parties. And it started 2 years ago when 4 of my best friends were all engaged in the same year. And I am that typical trip planning friend, right? I planned prom, I planned all the spring break trips, every reunion trip. So when everyone got engaged, they were like, Danielle, you have to plan our bachelorette parties. And I was like, okay, of course. I didn't expect to have to plan 4 and 6 months. So if anyone has been on a bachelorette, you know, it's chaotic. Like, everything is planned out for you from point A to point B. Like, Thursday to Sunday, you know exactly what you're doing, what you're wearing, what you're eating, where you're going. So I had to do this on like times 4. One of them happened to be international, which was just through like it just made it even crazy. And it was in Morocco, which I had never been to before. So she was my best friend. She is my best friend. And having to do this was just, I love her to death, but I don't think I'll ever do that again for anyone. Anyways, going through this whole process, I was like, wow, it is so crazy that women do this every year on such a scale. You're dealing with a budget that's probably close to $15,000. You're going to a city you don't know, and you're trying to keep the bride so happy that you kind of, you lose like all sense of your ability to make decisions. So we created BachPlace to simplify the entire planning process for group trips. And we're starting with the bachelorette market because the bachelorette market is the most complicated group trip you will ever plan.
So what's the wildest party BachPlace has planned?
We get this question a lot. What happens on a bachelorette stays on a bachelorette. Should we put it that way? But I will say the planning process for the Morocco bachelorette was probably, I have so much respect for travel agents after going through something like that. Just like the coordination of getting from point A to point B and the money transfer from like USD to like the Moroccan currency. It was quite an uphill battle, but we did it. Everyone had the best time. And that, while not the craziest, it led to this idea of like, wow, there is something here. There is a problem people are facing. And it's not just a Danielle problem. This is a problem that a lot of women face every single year.
How many bachelorettes do you think you've planned now through the business?
We just hit 75 parties on our platform just went live in January. So now the push has been to get everyone to use the platform. And the idea of the platform is that it's self-serving. But in total, 75 parties.
I want to ask you this question because I've been thinking about it a lot. And I feel like you have the right point of view on the situation. What the hell is going on with the wedding industry in the United States? It is more and more expensive every single year. People are hosting these elaborate weddings that nobody can afford. What the hell is going on? Make it stop.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. It's good for us because it's good for business. But if I have to go to another bachelorette where I'm spending $1,500, like I'm out. I'm going to start to say no. Just as a startup founder, I can't afford it. But I think I've gotten this idea that it's become this show of a friendship. On these bachelorette parties, it's all about showcasing like who this bride is to you, right? So you like go above and beyond and you just want to make sure the bride's having the best time possible. It gets pretty pricey. I don't know. It's crazy. I was like, there has to be a cap to like what people are doing, but now international has become so popular and it's sometimes honestly, like going to Mexico is cheaper than Miami. I'm being honest, but the more people start to explore other destinations, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be like a $2,000 bachelorette is going to become the norm. We'll see.
I think you bring up a point that I didn't think about, which is it's a way to say, look at all my friends, look how loved I am, look at this trip, look at this special moment in my life. That's kind of dangerous. Like, I hope we don't go in that direction where that has to be validated and showcased. We all have people that love us in our lives, and a bachelorette party is not going to change that.
So when we speak to our bachelorettes, you know, in the beginning, people were like, well, I don't want to go to Nashville. Like, that's not my vibe. Like, I don't want a crazy party bachelorette. And I'm like, then don't do it. Like, you have to do what's true to you as the bride. And if partying till 3 a.m. at a club is not your vibe, that is totally okay. And if going to a cabin upstate is more what you want to do, then do it. I think we put so much emphasis on what we see on social media that we've lost this ability to be like, well, what I want to do is who I am, and that's okay. That's really the essence of why BachPlace was created, was we have what we call like the bride's vibe. And it allows you to pick and choose like what you're really looking for and give you recommendations based on that vibe. And because of that, you know, I'm hoping that people are like, okay, like the bride really likes to do X. Here is a recommendation based on that she'll be happy with. And at the end of the day, it's really what the bride wants. If we're being honest, like you could ask the 10 other women on the trip, but the only person you're really catering to at the end of the day is the bride, your best friend, the sister. And let's make her happy.
I grew up in a culture where there's no such thing, I don't think, as like a bachelorette or a bachelor party. They don't really do that in Ukraine. And they don't really do like the elaborate engagements where like, I think even today, some people are getting engaged without the man even proposing with a ring. Like it's just a mutual agreement. Yeah. Here it's like the polar opposite in the US.
So crazy. I mean, being in Tel Aviv and telling people what I do, they're like, Mazen, like the bachelorettes here are a night, if that, maybe. Like maybe it's a day. They're like, people spend that much money? And I'm like, oh yeah, you have no idea. So I feel like it's so on brand for America to have just a crazy wedding bachelorette industry. It's just like who we are. We're like consumers of everything, you know?
And that kind of also reminds me of the fact that even weddings in Israel are very casual. Like people will wear jeans to weddings, which is an absolute no in the US, I feel like. And at first, I didn't know what to think about it. But then I recently went to a wedding and my family was overdressed for it, I would say. But the bride and groom were dressed very nicely. So we kind of matched them, but we didn't really match anybody else. And I talked to my mom about it and she said, well, look at it this way. You're respecting and honoring a special event for these people by showing up of the same caliber, of the same decorum as the bride and groom. You're sharing that experience with them by saying, we're going to show up in the same way. And I was like, that is a huge sign of respect. So I definitely view it differently. And
that's really good words of wisdom from your mom, because it's true. It's a way, it's like you're celebrating this couple, and whatever way they want to be celebrated is how you should essentially show up. But I agree. The first Israeli wedding I went to, when I saw someone come in jeans and flip-flops, I think my jaw literally dropped.
So how many years have you been running these two businesses now? Oosh is new, but how many years have you been working on BachPlace?
So BachPlace, the idea started 2 years ago exactly. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. Time has flown, really. Like I can't believe it's been 2 years. I recently had to write out like what I've done for BachPlace over the last 2 years. And, you know, when you're in it, you don't realize how much you've done. And once I had to put like pen to paper, I was impressed with myself, to be quite honest. I was like, wow, I created something from scratch and I was working with someone and, you know, we did it together and it was an amazing experience to have that happen. I'm so grateful for the experience because I've learned so much, and not just about business and how things work, or, you know, we've made a ton of mistakes, but it's been a lot of self-growth in figuring out what I'm good at, what my strengths are, weaknesses are, and how to really excel in my day-to-day.
A side tangent. I have a friend, Victoria, who listens to this podcast, so I'm sure she'll be very happy to hear that I called her out. She told me years ago to create what's called a pat on the back list. So anytime you do something that's kind of notable or you're proud of in your work, put it in your pat on the back list. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, just a sentence like, I did this and it caused that. So then when you reflect on it like a year or two later, when you really have to put the pen to the paper, you don't have to think of, what did I do 2 years ago? You have it all on your pat on the back list and you get to work through that. Now, she told me this when I was in my first job out of school. And I remember I would put like the smallest things on the pat on the back list, like literally anything that I could think of. And then when the performance review came up for that role, I had like the longest self-evaluation of any candidate. Like, pat on the back. I showed up to work on time.
That's so funny. Oh, I love that. I should write that down. Like, I made it to all my meetings today. Yeah. So when we started this company in business school, this idea of like where we are today would never have crossed my mind. I mean, we have a functioning platform. We raise money, and now I'm leading like the company day to day alone. And it's taught me so much about how to lead, how to be strong, and this idea of resiliency, right? I have faced so many hardships in the last year, in the business, in personal life, and it's this idea of you get knocked down, but you will stand up again. And it's so important to have such a strong support system. I don't think I could have gotten through the last couple months without my mom, for sure. And then my really close friends who've been a listening ear. But then also I have really great mentors. And I think that's something that this company has brought me, is the opportunity to learn from other really strong women who I look up to and really admire, and have given me a lot of strength in some of the challenges that I have faced in the last couple months.
That kind of brings me to my next question. I view you as an entrepreneur that solves really practical problems that regular people experience. As you're reflecting back on your career, on school, on the ideas you have, on 2 years of running BachPlace, what's a priceless piece of advice that you can share?
First, like, thank you so much. I mean, I only have 2 companies and they're not even that big. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm an entrepreneur. So thank you. This might be more about my personality and this might not fit for everyone, but I always prepare for the worst, and things might always seem like rosy and going well. But what I have been able to do for both of these businesses is in the back of my mind be like, okay, like if this happens and we don't get this client, or if this person doesn't follow through, what is the worst thing that can happen and how can I best prepare for that? And I think that it's helped me a lot of times, like in a way, be like 2 steps ahead, because nothing ever follows the plan it's supposed to follow, right? Like we don't know what's going to happen, but in kind of thinking of, okay, it's plan A and plan B, like between those 2 things, you're kind of always prepared for the unexpected to some extent. I think some people see that as being negative, or I've had disagreements with people about whether or not I should be doing this as an entrepreneur, because you're leaving space for like this negative thought to come in. But for me, what it helps is I always like to know what options I have, and that I feel that I'm best prepared to face those options if they come my way. So I don't know if that was a good one, but
yeah, that was a good one. I agree. In business school, we call that BATNA, best alternative to negotiated agreement.
There you go.
You always got to have a BATNA.
A startup is full of ups and downs. At the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself as a founder. And if you are not mentally there, right, like the business will suffer. And what I mean by, and like not every week I end on like a high note. Like there have been plenty of weeks where I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know where this is going. I'm miserable. But I really try to stay optimistic. And that could be like, wow, we got a new client today. Like amazing. Just really trying to remember the positive things that are happening, because, an old manager told me this once. We have our ups and downs, up and down, up and down, and up and down. Trajectory should be up, and along the way you'll have ups and downs. And that's one thing I keep remembering, is that everything that I'm facing right now is just for upwards growth. And I keep pushing forward, and Oosh has allowed me to like put all that energy of like Israel and Judaism into something new, and it's going, and hopefully it becomes a really big thing. And if it doesn't, at the end of the day, I'm like, I still made an impact in some way. And I'm so excited about the brand and who we are and what we stand for.
Yeah, it's really hard to reconcile. I can't relate because I'm not an entrepreneur, but I do run a podcast that I want to be, a premier Jewish podcast, God willing. And I wrestle between one day I'm like, if only one person listens to this episode and it changes their life, I'm happy. And then the next day I'll be like, this is too small. It's not growing fast enough. I need to find more reach. I need to find more people that want to listen to it. I need to be messaging people to check out the podcast marketing. And it's always an ebb and flow and ebb and flow. The other thing that resonated with me that you said, I live by the motto, and it's not my motto. It's a joke from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. The motto is, start worrying, details to follow.
Wow.
That's very much who I am. And I feel like you would understand that. But maybe it's a Jewish condition,
Probably. I think it's like ingrained in us think about our moms. Like, it's always like, are you hungry? Are you this? Are you that? Like, we're always worrying about something. Like, are you cold enough? I think it's really part of being Jewish, is like this idea of worrying.
The other thing this kind of reminded me of, it always makes me laugh. Coming back to that first job where my pat on the back list was endless, we once did an offsite where all of the people like me in the leadership development program met, and we ranked each other on different qualities. So quality could be like communication and warmth or reliability. And so people would walk around the room and put stickers for each quality. And a green sticker would mean that you are good at that quality. And a red sticker would mean that you are, using that quality a little too much. And so there were probably like, yeah, we did this. And everyone walked around the room and put stickers. So if you stood in the corner long enough, you could kind of see, who was putting what sticker on your poster.
I wonder how long ago was this?
This was in 2019. I remember on my poster, the quadrant that was like, takes ownership, leader, reliable, on time, all of those I had like green, 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 green. And then the qualities that were like aggressive, persistent, stubborn, it was like red, 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 red. Yeah, it was a savage thing to do.
Yeah, that's like, I'm like thinking about that now. It's like, it's very Israeli mindset of like just saying it like it is, you know, like just putting it all out there. Do you feel like it helped? Like, did it have like a good outcome?
I mean, I always got in trouble at that job, but I didn't care because everyone really loved working with me and I was the top performer for the leadership development program. But I always got in trouble because I would complain that the program didn't pay us enough. I would always be fighting with HR about how they didn't give us the right salary increase and arguing with them over how come the class under us is making more money even though we're more experienced, like the salary isn't at the market level. And so I always got in trouble for those things, and people viewed me as like aggressive and stubborn, but in my eyes it was like, you're welcome. You know?
Yeah, like you were doing it for the greater good of everyone.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your words of advice, your story, your experience running these two companies. It's been so amazing to see the growth and the work that you've put in, and I hope it continues to pay off. Of course, now I have to ask, what's the best way to connect with you, to buy the Oosh boxes, and to learn more about your work?
You can follow us on Instagram. So we're oosh.box on Instagram. It's ooshbox.com. And we are so excited. We're going to be releasing a few more themed boxes this year, and get your orders in. You can also DM me on my personal account. We can give everyone who listens to this podcast 10% off their box. So DM me if you want to order. I'm Danielleoosh on Instagram.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to order my box. And separately, can you explain Oosh, like the name?
Oh, yes. So Oosh, I love naming companies. It's something that I have told people who are starting things, it'll just come to you. And it came to us for BachPlace. And the Oosh origin story is, you know, in Hebrew, everyone adds like Oosh to everything. Danielleoosh, hey Oosh, hi Oosh. Like when I go to the gym, my instructor, she's like, hi Oosh, like how was the weekend? So I started brainstorming with Elle, who is my business partner for Oosh. And we were just going back and forth. And I was like, what if we do something like, you know, a little like an endearing term? And we talked about Oosh. And then she was like, Oosh, out of shattered hearts, as an acronym. And that's when the name just made so much sense to both of us, because Oosh is it's a term. It's something that if you're Israeli, you like add it. But then this other meaning is where the company really came from. Our hearts were broken, and this is a way to fix these broken hearts through our boxes.
That's really beautiful.
You know, naming the BachPlace, the origin story for BachPlace was like, we were Effie at first. Like we thought Effie was this cute name. It was a little bit Israeli. It was like, you know, because we're both Israeli founders. And then we were like obsessed with the name. And then people were like, Effie, like my uncle was like, Effie, like F you. And I'm like, whoa, like you really have to run names by people, because people come up with the weirdest like connections. And naming companies though is it's a really fun one. I tell everyone, like, you just got to go back and forth with whoever you're working with. I mean, your name is so great. Like people do want to know. Did you think of it right away?
No, my friend who is really good at puns thought of it when I met with her one day for a comedy show. Ironically, we went to go see Kugels and Comedians, which is the comedy show that I'm performing on. Well, I guess when this podcast released, I will have performed on. So that came full circle. But this is a great opportunity for me to read you some alternate names that were considered for the podcast.
Let's hear. Oh, I love this. I love this.
Okay. I'm pulling it up. Here we go. This was under the section Don't Love. Kishentuchas. Michigas with Marge.
Oh, actually, that's kind of cute.
Parsha Podcast.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Start worrying, details to follow was a name for the
Wow.
podcast, a considered name.
Wow.
Another one. They tried to kill us and we survived.
Honestly, you would get a lot of interesting who would.
What's the audience for that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I never had a bat mitzvah. Hebrew school for adults. Random Jews.
Like random Jews.
Menorah Minute. That was suggested by ChatGPT. Very cringy.
So trusty, ChatGPT.
Tales from the JCC, and then it went very downhill quickly. Foreskin Files. Then next year in Jerusalem. But again, all of these, now that you know what the actual podcast name is, these suck.
It's like the graveyard of names. The foreskin one, though, maybe that's a comedy name podcast at one time.
Yeah, Foreskin Files. That's horrible. Okay. Thank you again for coming on this podcast. It's been such a huge pleasure to have you on. My last question for you, the one that I ask every single guest, is who would you like to nominate for the podcast?
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I would love to nominate my friend, Danielle Eisenberg, who is also an entrepreneur, New York City resident, and very pro-Israel, recently has done so much on the ground. And she was actually the idea generator for Oosh. So she passed it on to me, and she's amazing. She's doing an amazing startup in the travel space. I think she'd be a great candidate.
Thank you so much, Danielle. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please go ahead and rate us 5 stars. Be the first to hear our episodes by subscribing to People You Want to Know wherever you get your podcasts. And for exclusive content, follow us on Instagram at People You Want to Know.